Erev Tov Rabotai, we're continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Bikkurim. We're up to Perik Gimel, Mishnah Tet. Today's Mishnah should be Le'ilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. We know those bringing Bikkurim would decorate them by hanging beautiful fruits from the rim of the basket. We mentioned it earlier in Mishnah Gimel. The Mishnah today cites a dispute about which types of fruits may be used for this purpose. Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas says, Me'aterin et ha-bikurim chutz mishivat aminim. We may adorn the bikurim even with species other than the 7 species. And the Mefarshim explain, although the obligation of bikurim applies only to the 7 species for which Eretz Israel is praised, like we saw earlier in chapter 1, Mishnah 10, Rabbi Shimon ben Anas says one may adorn his basket with beautiful, high-quality fruits of other species, such as quinces and etrogim. One may also use fruits that grew outside Eretz Yisrael, despite the fact that they too are unfit to be bikurim. Rabbi Akiva Omer, but Rabbi Akiva says, En me'aterin et bikurim ela mishivat aminim. We may adorn the bikurim only with the 7 species. And the Rav adds, in addition, it is forbidden to use fruit that grew outside Eretz Yisrael. And the Mefarshim explain, Rabbi Akiva is concerned that someone who sees fruit around the basket might assume that they are actual bikurim. Therefore, if they do not belong to the 7 species, or if they come from outside Eretz Yisrael, he might conclude that the obligation of bikurim applies even to such fruits. So to prevent people from making this mistake, the sages decreed, according to Rabbi Akiva, that the basket may be decorated only with fruits that are fit to be bikurim themselves. And the Rav tells us, the halacha ki Rabbi Akiva, the halacha follows Rabbi Akiva, that we may adorn the bikurim only with the 7 species that are fit to be bikurim themselves. And that is the Rabotai of Mishnah Tet. Mishnah Yud continues, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, Shalosh midot b'bikurim. There are 3 levels of bikurim. Ha-bikurim, the actual bikurim, meaning the fruit that the owner designates as bikurim when he first sees them on the tree, as we described in Mishnah 1. V'tosefet ha-bikurim, additional bikurim, which are fruits that he adds to his bikurim at the time of harvesting, meaning the Rav says when the owner picks the bikurim he had already designated, he adds a few more fruits of the same type. V'itura bikurim, and decorative bikurim, which are fruits that he uses to decorate the bikurim, like we described in Mishnah 3 and Mishnah 9. Now the Mefarshim explain additional bikurim and decorative bikurim must also be given to a Kohen who has to eat them in Yerushalayim. Now, although additional bikurim and decorative bikurim do not have the biblical sanctity of regular bikurim, they may be eaten only by Kohanim in Yerushalayim. The Mishnah now is going to cite other laws that apply to these 2 types of bikurim. Continuing in Mishnah Yud, Tosefet bikurim min b'mino. Additional bikurim must be of the same type of fruit as the actual bikurim. V'itura bikurim min b'sheno mino. But decorative bikurim may be of a different type. So, for example, the Mefarshim give an example. If someone designated figs as his bikurim, he can designate only figs as additional bikurim. If he went ahead and designated a different type, such as grapes, for his additional bikurim, they do not gain that status. Rather, they automatically become subject to the laws of decorative bikurim. Now, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Anas that we quoted in Mishnah 9, one may decorate his bikurim even with fruit that are unfit to become bikurim themselves, like quinces and etrogim. Tosefet bikurim ne'echele b'taura. Additional bikurim, the Mishnah says, must be eaten in a state of purity when both they and the person eating them are tahor, and the same is true of decorative bikurim. Uftura min demai. Additional bikurim are exempt from the laws of demai. Therefore, if a Kohen receives additional bikurim from an am haaretz, he does not have to separate maasot from them. And again, as a background, demai is produce obtained from an am haaretz, an unlearned person. The sages decreed that one must separate maasot from demai because although most am haaretz, most unlearned people separate maasot from their produce, many do not. However, it's not necessary to separate tirumah from demai because even am haaretz can be trusted to separate tirumah. In this case, the Mishnah says additional bikurim are exempt from the law of demai. V'itura bikurim chaya b'demai, but decorative bikurim are subject to the laws of Demai, and therefore a Kohen who receives decorative Bikurim from an Am Haaretz, he must separate Ma'asrot before eating them. And the Mefarshim explain in this respect, both additional Bikurim and decorative Bikurim are different from actual Bikurim. Actual Bikurim are completely exempt from the laws of Terumot and Masrot and may be eaten even if these portions were certainly not separated from them, like we saw in Masechet Terumot, Mishnah chapter 3, Mishnah 6 and 7. Additional Bikurim, on the other hand, are basically subject to the laws of Terumot and Masrot. Therefore, if it's known that additional Bikurim still contain Terumah or Masrot, Kohanim are forbidden to eat them before separating the required portions. Nevertheless, additional Bikurim are exempt from the rabbinic decree of Demai, and therefore if a Kohen received additional Bikurim from an Am Haaretz, the sages did not require him to separate Masrot, since after all it's likely that the Am Haaretz already did so. We said most Am Haaretz separate Masrot from their produce. Decorative Bikurim are a third category. They are subject not only to the biblical laws of Terumot and Masrot, but also to the rabbinic decree of Demai. And like we said, therefore, a Kohen who receives decorative Bikurim from an Am Haaretz, he must separate Ma'asrot before eating them. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.